Welcome back to Red Cedar Radar. Caden and I are here in Chrysler Arena following Michigan State's loss at Michigan. I do think that this game was a better game than the performance that they put on at the Breslin. Didn't allow a slow start and kind of kept it close with the Wolverines mostly throughout until a couple of bad stretches in the second half led to it just being an insurmountable deficit. Let's start player of the game. I think maybe there's a couple to pick from, but I'm going to go with Jeremy Fears, which might be a little bit of a what's the word I'm looking for? Controversial take. Sorry, geez. I feel like although there's a little bit of heat around him, he was able to shake off what happened at the beginning of the game and end the game with 22 points. I mean, he is the leader and he should be putting up 22 points. The unnecessary drama that's happening around him, I hope can fall to the wayside for the tournament, but I imagine that it will not. So it's on him to kind of shake off those things and keep playing at the level that he's supposed to be playing at. Player of the game for you?
Yeah, mine would have to be Jackson Kohler. I feel like with how he started on offense on defense in the first half, he was kind of late to everything, and he was kind of just a step behind, but he stepped it up, giving it back on offense for what he was giving up, and he ended up exceeding that, hit a couple of really big threes, had a couple of really big offensive rebounds, and had a lot of key stops in the paint on Yaxel in the second half especially, and against Merez a couple of times. He played really good, and I feel like he rose to the occasion when the other guys around him didn't exactly step up in the post.
I do feel like he was late to score, like you said, like 8 minutes or something in the first half. It was on 8 minutes and then he scored. Oh my gosh, what am I saying? He didn't score until 8 minutes were left. Sorry, my brain is fried apparently. Which is not typical for him. And then points came fast for him. Which is what I guess you want to see when your starter is struggling, that when he finds his groove, he finds it quickly and he can build up points to make up time. Sorry, there's a lot of people here, which is a little bit distracting. Maybe I have ADHD. Who knows? Okay, so let's talk things that went well for the Spartans first before we talk about maybe what could have gone better. I do think that Kerr Tang off the bench in the first half was an absolute plus for the Spartans. Now, he didn't have that same play in the second half, but to have him come off the bench and be able to hit the shots that he hit was a huge spring forward. I wish that he was more consistent. I do think that he has gotten better over these last couple games defensively and with making necessary shots, and I hope that that continues for him into tournament play, but I would like him to be a bit more advanced than where he is right now. As far as, like I said, keeping the game close, the Spartans did a good job of not getting razzed by the crowd or by the things that were happening with the technical fouls and the flagrants. They kept their head, which is not easy to do here at Chrysler against your rival.
Yeah, it's weird always when you're on the road, the home crowd and the home team's getting those home crowd calls, and that happens anywhere you go, but they were just able to bounce back pretty much every single time that Michigan felt like they're about to go on a run. MSU had an answer for it, and they never really let the game get too out of hand, obviously, until the last couple of minutes, but you always felt like MSU had a chance, and that's just something you couldn't say in the first game. Like, that game fell over by the first half, basically. Even when MSU was making their comeback in the second half, it just didn't feel real, and that didn't happen today. And I feel like they also did a really good job taking care of the ball. I mean, 7 turnovers, you'll take that any day, even if you don't get the win. That's been an issue for MSU all year, just throwing away the ball, stupid dead ball turnovers, just stuff that you shouldn't be having. And they did a good job of taking that away. They just didn't really execute on the other areas.
What was it, 10 turnovers just in the first half against Rutgers?
Yeah.
So, yeah, major improvement there. Things that the Spartans should improve upon before tournament play. I do think that they need more points from their bench players, and that's going to be something that they will need to rely on once the slog of tournament play continues, because guys are going to get tired with back-to-back games. That just happens. You can be as veteran of a player as possible, but March is just a daunting thing, and it wears you down. And so having those guys that can come off the bench and score is going to be very important, because we had, Cam Moore, Jesse McCullough, and Wojcik with no points. None of Michigan's players that came off the bench left the game with 0 points. Everyone contributed at least minimum of 2. So that's going to be something important, that if you come off the bench, you have to be impacting the game on the offensive side as much as possible.
Yeah, I feel like the biggest issue, especially this game, is just letting Michigan work inside out. When you let them work inside out, you kind of just play into exactly what they want to do. When you let them get downhill and be able to kick out of their shooters, that's exactly what Michigan's trying to do. You need to make them work inside in, and that's what they did in the second half of the Michigan State game the last game. In this game, they just really couldn't get to it, and Michigan actually hit their threes. Yaxel Lindenborg, what 5 threes, 4 threes, 5 threes, and that's just something you're not going to see every day. But that goes into them getting downhill and getting those open shooters. And once you do that, it's kind of a lost cause at that point.
Yeah. I think the Spartans have landed themselves a pretty decent draw in the Big Ten tournament with Nebraska winning. They will be solidly in the 3 slot. Sorry, I was making sure. Paul.
UCLA, and then UCLA is the 6th seed. If they win, then they'll play MSU.
Which I think is maybe who MSU wants out of the options. Paul Fanson for Spartans Illustrated has been putting out a lot of projections about the Big Ten tournament. So check those out on our social media. Those are really good predictions, especially if you're looking for tickets or trying to plan out your weekend. That's a really good place to check. Any Spartans that are headed to the Big Ten tournament, Spartans Illustrated will be there. I think our crew is Marvin Hall will be photographing the game, David, Abby, and Jonah from the We Got It podcast, and Andrew Talks Hoops will all be there. So like a star-studded group, honestly. If they're around, ask them for an autograph. I think it will be a good weekend in Chicago for the Spartans if they play how we've seen them play throughout the year. The Big Ten tournament is always a question because, yeah, you want to make it to the end and have a Big Ten tournament title because who doesn't love to raise a banner? But that is a heavy weekend of play before you head into March Madness. So there's always a debate about what you want in the Big Ten tournament. You never want to lose, but is losing always that big of a deal in the tournament? So wishy-washy there
especially with the amount of miles that will be put on these MSU players with Fierce playing 38 minutes plus a game, Kohler playing all these minutes a game, playing 3 games in 3 days, getting all the way to Sunday. It can be beneficial to you, but are the miles really worth it in the long run?
Yeah, I do love the Big Ten tournament. I like all of the Big Ten fans getting together. I feel like that's always cool to see. But in the scheme of tournament play, I feel like it matters less.
Unless it's a rematch with Michigan on Sunday, then you're...
Which is definitely a possibility. And I feel like if the Michigan State trajectory continues, they have played better this time than they played Michigan last time. Maybe that trend will continue and we'll see a different ending on Sunday if the two find each other again in the finals. Are you attending the Big Ten tournament?
Not, sadly.
Okay, well, that's all right. We'll both be watching from our couches, but that's okay. Sometimes that's the best place to be. Subscribe to Spartans Illustrated for more content as we head into March. I imagine we'll be pumping out like hundreds of things all of the time. So check us out on socials. If you have any questions about subscribing, feel free to reach out to me or our publisher, David Harns. And I'm so glad to have done this with all of my viewers and listeners throughout the regular season, and I'll be around for some March Madness games as well, so watch out for those episodes. Thanks so much for joining me and being on a couple times this year. This was your first year for basketball, right?
It is, yeah.
Okay, well, amazing end, sorta, to the first year of his regular season covering Michigan State for Spartans Illustrated, and find the Red Cedar Radar wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye.